Excuse me. So I was perusing Twitter a couple days ago, and I noticed that Anthem is officially dead. Now, Legacy Killer HD didn't want to say it's dead, but it's implying that. And don't worry, folks, I have the stat calculations from the lab. It's a little bit, went through a lot in order to get the most accurate results possible, and I can safely say without a doubt that it is indeed dead. And to illustrate that, I'm going to take this axe, and it's axed. It's officially murdered. I killed it. It's dead. And since we're all in agreement that Anthem is dead, or at the bare minimum, if you want to be in denial, we can at least agree that it should be dead. And what I mean? Well, we're going to get into that as we discuss Anthem's development, its launch, as well as some post-launch mishaps that have happened that sort of show in my eyes, my view, that it should be gone, considering that some of the practices that are going to be discussed in today's video are downright pitiful, to say the least. And this hopefully is a cautionary tale to any sort of game developer that tries to take the same route that BioWare did. Join me as we discuss why Anthem has failed. For this section, it's going to bear extreme resemblance to Jason's article on the subject, and that's because this is based on that article. I did this because an investigation led to a lot of revelations on the development of Anthem. Despite the article bringing forth a lot of accusations regarding the matter, I'm inclined to believe them. Jason has a good track record when it comes to this sort of thing, plus BioWare and EA had a response ready to go minutes after publication. Very interesting! I highly recommend giving it a read, considering its leaks better than the 7th grade essay version, also because someone's going to mention it. Here it is, cited MLA format for no reason whatsoever. In 2012 to 2013, Case and Hudson, small team developers, started the brainstorm stage for a new game that would be known as Anthem. It was codenamed Dylan because they thought that this game would be thought about for years to come. During this period, a lot of ideas were played around with. However, what eventually came out of it was an action game where you armored up in an Iron Man-inspired suit and traversed an alien world that was described as a Bermuda Triangle hub. Here, the player would need to survive its vast number of creatures and dynamic environment that was ever-changing. After the release and critical acclaim of Dragon Age Inquisition in 2014, BioWare was ready to tackle Anthem. However, its enthusiasm wouldn't last too long. Firstly, Case and Hudson left in August of 2014. Creative director of Anthem's earliest phases was gone. David was brought aboard to help with Anthem's story. He made changes which led to the game needing changes to accommodate. In 2016, he left BioWare, which meant that the story was rebooted. Leadership was described as indecisive and couldn't make decisions for the game. This led to development being constantly changing because nothing would stay concrete. Developers described that they had no vision for Anthem, and even when decisions were reached, they would take a long time to implement because BioWare didn't have a complete grasp of the Frostbite engine. And to make matters worse, developers that were well versed in the engine were pulled to work on FIFA titles. And they got little support from EA itself since BioWare was in FIFA or Battlefield, even though it was EA the first place that made a conscious decision to make their studios go with Frostbite engine. This led to features that were going to be in the game to be phased out from much simpler mechanics. Eventually, BioWare was implementing from ideas from games such as Destiny. However, it wasn't allowed to be discussed because leadership didn't want it to be compared as such. The core of what we got for Anthem was made during a 6-week period because Patrick Sutherland wasn't impressed by the previous one. After they impressed the big man, they went to work on the trailer for E3. Austin was brought aboard to help get the product out the door by the initial 2018 release date. However, any type of issues they came across, they were ignored. This is due to the supposed hierarchy that was at BioWare, even though they had experience making an online game. This led to development crunch to get the game out on time. During this time, people returned, people left, and things were scrapped and retooled. It was a mess. This led to developers utilizing stress leave. Stress leave is when BioWare employees would leave work for months because they were overstressed about work. It got so stressful that apparently developers would find empty office spaces and just burst into tears. And the leadership kept pushing forward with their BioWare magic. However, despite all that, Anthem was released in early 2019 to mixed reception. It got this mixed reception because of its ungodly load times, repetitive mission, uninteresting loot, and a long, dull story. Now, the reason I'm saying mixed with huge quotation marks is because since I've never played an ounce of the game, I apparently can't have an opinion on it. Even if I dare have an opinion based on what others think, I am an insert derogatory name here. However, it hardly matters because it seems like anyone that would defend this game has left the match entirely. As a matter of fact, since I know a lot of them has left the video by now, I'm going to say something very controversial. Anthem could have been better. Anyway, let's discuss the other people that decide to yeet out of this game entirely. We'll start with the players, and there's some obvious reasons for that. They found out that the weapon system put in place at launch was pointless. They found out that Anthem didn't really have a reason to play after its main campaign. When BioWare broke the game and made legendaries more plentiful, the players went out of their way to tell them to keep the game broke and keep it that way. BioWare decided to fix it anyway. There's many other reasons for it, but what's even more interesting is BioWare heading the game decided that it would be best to abandon ship. They went through 2 in the span of a year. And even BioWare, the company itself, is trying to distance itself from its own thing by abandoning the roadmap and deciding to implement seasonal updates to focus on the core game, which is another way of saying that the updates are going to focus more on a bulleted list of what's being fixed instead of new content. And even if there is new content coming, BioWare decided to halt all communication with this community until the stuff is done. And even its publisher EA is trying to distance itself from Anthem by not mentioning it during his quarterly financial meeting with shareholders and saying it performed below expectations. All in all, Anthem has been through development hell, from constantly changing staff to upper management not being able to implement ideas to the excuse of BioWare magic to justify crunch. To me, Anthem is a cautionary tale to have strong leadership with a clear vision and to not rely on crunch to make the vision. This tale also marks the end of the magic that was once BioWare. And that wraps up that little slight video essay. I don't even call it a video essay. Just me blabbing about BioWare for a little while in Anthem. A game that I've never played but have a strong opinion about due to the fact that people are crying. I mean, if you're going in an office and crying, if this is true, like I said, I want to say it's true because of their response. And considering they also made a second response because their first response didn't really hack it. But if you're crying about your work, I think it's safe to say that this game sucks. Not because it's good or bad, but because it sets a bad precedent for game development as a whole, when game development is already at a bad precedent to begin with crunch culture and how developers, if there's even a whiff of being unionized, is just axed. Yeah, that's the end of my little rant. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Apparently I gotta get used to saying, turn on the bell to get notifications. And with that, I will say, see you in the next video. Peace. Sorry for staying over about 20 seconds. Apparently I gotta stay 20 seconds for the videos and the subscribe thing, so don't mind me. Oh, should I try this? No. Okay, see you.